Hi there. I am going to do another demo, and the demo this time is going to be painting on, these are floor tiles. I just got at the local Lowe's. These ones are kind of neat because they kind of have like a wood finish on them. You could also use maybe this kind of tile. The best kind of tiles is not the real thick glass ones, but more of these stone type ones that are not quite as thick, because I'll be drilling a couple of holes in here to hang them. So these are the ones that are done right now over here. So this one is hand painted, and I don't know if you can see that, but it says welcome friends with the sunflower, and then there's a small little string to hang it with, and just knotted at the front. You can do it other ways, but I find I like to do it this way. This one here, I'm just using enamel paints and the folk art enamel paint type here. So what you're going to need for this project is, of course, a tile of your choice, some enamel paints. To drill a hole, I'm using a Dremel with a diamond tipped bit, something like, well, this one's a little pointy, but yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but this is a Dremel tip that'll go nicely through it. A little spray of water, so I just use this little thing here with water while I'm drilling through the tile. And what else do I need? I'm also using these really cool glass and ceramic paint markers that I got on online. I bought them, and these ones here are the brand. They're quite nice. Amazon has them. I can't remember what I paid for them, but there's 12 different colors, and they work quite well. You'll probably need some rope to tie it with. So I just get this at the dollar store, and I just jute rope, twine or whatever they want to call that. And what else do you need? Oh, and I do finish it with a clear coat urethane spray once I'm done. So it pretty much seals the paint on here pretty good. You can do a couple coats, but it makes it shiny too. If you want to do the back, you can, but you don't necessarily have to. So basically all you really need to decide is what kind of design you want on here. So this is a welcome friends with a sunflower. And then I have the Dandelions, another welcome one right here with Dandelions. It's kind of fun. I think I might do another one of the Dandelions as a demo. They're kind of cute, so I'm just using black, white, I guess it's kind of a yellowy orange. The one I'm using is called Saffron Yellow, and then there's a bit of blue in here, and that's about it. So you don't have to paint the background. And then I have this one too, which I thought was kind of cute, Sister, and I just kind of used the paint markers and kind of decorated it the way I liked it. I like it. It's kind of cute. Alright, so I'm going to set those aside. You'll need some paper towels or a rag as well. So you're first going to take your tile, and you're going to decide what is the top and what is the bottom. And I think I'm going to decide on the dark corner here being the bottom. So I'm just going to put 2 dots up here for where I want the holes with just a black marker. And like, I mean, it can be estimated roughly, just kind of like that. Alright, and then I'm going to take my Dremel. So the bit that I'm using is a little bit more rounded on top. I don't know if you can see that, but that's the bit I'm going to use. And I actually put it on a piece of wood so that when I go through, I'm not actually damaging my table or my cutting pad. And I keep my water nearby. So I just kind of like to start it first. So I turn it over and just kind of go over the other side just a little bit, just to open up the hole. So there you have it. Two nice little holes where you can thread some twine right through. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm just going to take a little twine. I don't know, it's not very long actually. You can cut it smaller once you have it threaded through. So just kind of a little piece. And I'm just going to thread it through one side here. And the hole isn't very big. Now if you have a fairly bigger hole, you might want to double knot it, but the knot's not going to come through at all. So I'm just going to brush end. There we go. So you only really want enough to hang it. So really about an inch from the top. That's kind of good right there. So I'm going to pull it a little further out and I'm going to knot it. Sorry if you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just putting a knot in there and I'm tightening it up. So, and I'm going to cut the excess off, so not too close to the knot, but just enough that it's not going to unravel. Okay, so now it's ready for painting. So what I'm going to do is move this piece of wood. And hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm using my iPad. And I'm just going to decide what I want to do with this. Now this is cleaned with some rubbing alcohol as well. If you're unsure about the finish, make sure you clean it so that the paint stays on it much better. So I'm going to take something simple like my black. Here it is. This is my black paint pen. Again, it's meant for glass and ceramic. It's called glass and ceramic paint markers, so it is meant for this. You can use these on glassware, anything, and it does give you instructions to do baking, so it has long-lasting wear. It's still recommended hand wash if you're putting it on wine glasses or something like that, but it's great for something that you would put on a wall. So basically I'm just gonna map out my welcome. I'm just gonna freehand it, and you can fill it in, so you kind of have to judge where you want it. So sometimes I start with the bottom and I'll put the first letter in, right, and then I'll put the top in. And then I'll go from there. So something like that, you can actually fix it a little bit more. So I'm just going to thicken it up a bit in certain areas. Let's see if you can see what I'm doing here. So this pen here to load more paint, let me grab a little piece of paper. You just have to push down and it advances more paint into the pen. If you get a big glob, wipe that off. They're actually amazing little markers. Okay, so there's my welcome. I just kind of added a bit of flair to each letter. Some of them might be a little smaller than others, but that's okay because we want it to look a little rustic and hand-drawn, not necessarily kind of like if you put vinyl on it. You could do the same thing with vinyl if you wanted to, but I kind of like the idea of it being more hand-drawn and 100% hand-painted. So we'll leave it at that. We can always decorate it up a little bit after with some color. So our next thing is we're going to do the heads of the dandelions. So it's always best to have an odd number. So whether you do 3 dandelion heads, if you wanted to add a 4th, you need to go 5. So it's 3 or 5, not an even amount, and they're kind of randomly placed on the tile. So what I tend to do is I decide where I want each dandelion by basically just putting the center of the dandelion in certain areas on the tile and deciding where the circumference of the dandelion is going to be. So really it's just kind of like a little half circle and in different directions. So I'm just kind of drawing a couple of half circles. Maybe I'll have a half circle going this way, here, you know, maybe one way over here. So I want 5, and on my first demo I did them a little close together, which is fine. I like them the way they are, but this time I'm going to do them a little bit further apart so I can make some bigger and smaller. Okay, so those are my little half circles, like that. Okay, I just randomly put in there different directions. I guess they're kind of like a crescent moon. They're not a full half circle. So now I'm going to attach the stems in different directions from my little half moons here. Okay, so then I'm just going to decide how I want them to go and whether you draw them up or down from the center, but all of them should be kind of curved in one way or another. So this one I'm going to curve down like this. And this one here, I think I'm going to, because it's going that way, I'm going to curve it down like that as well. Whereas this one here is curving this way, so I think I'm just going to take it and cross it over. And this one here is curved this way, so I'm just going to have it coming off of the tile, going out, and this one as well. So that I kind of have something like this. Okay, so that's our start. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put our marker away and we're going to start using some paints. So I do need a tray. One sec. Okay, I'm back. I forgot to grab just a plastic plate to put my paints on it. So these paints are white. So I'm just going to put some white on here. You don't need a lot, so don't waste your paint. Just a little dab will do, yeah? You can always add. And I need some yellow. You can't see what I'm doing. Alright, here's my paint. So I'm going to dab a little bit of yellow. Very small amount, because you don't want to waste it. Alright, so see that? White and yellow. And I need some black. Very little bit of black. Sometimes this stuff comes out fast. And now I need my blue, where did I put my blue? Alright, I'm going to use this blue. It has a bit of a metallic in it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of blue on there. Not a lot. Okay, so basically that's about how much paint you're going to use. Now you need some nice fine brushes. Any fine brush will do. So this is a very tiny, tiny little crafting brush. This is all I really need. And then some water. Right? Make sure your brush is a little damp. And again, a little bit of paper towel so you can dry it off. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put my paints aside and I'm just going to show you as I go. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a cross. I'm going to do a straight cross almost with black. So I'm just going to take the black and I'm just going to draw a cross. I don't want it to be adjacent to the stem, so I'm going to go up here very thinly and down, and then I'm going to go across and across like that. Okay, so I'm going to do that to every dandelion, and it's only about, it depends on how big you want the head of the dandelion to be. That's how big how long your crosses are going to be. So mine is 3/4 of an inch on that one, and then I'm going to do this one, so I'll show you once they're all done. And try to do them nice and thinly. Nothing too thick, because you don't want it to be thick, even if the line is partially not there. So if you look, my dandelion, I have all these little crosses, little X's, okay, going through the center. Now I'm going to add to it some more lines in between. So just lightly we're going to go in between. So I do one here, one here, one here, and one here. And it doesn't have to be overly straight. And you're going to do that to every dandelion that you started. If your brush gets a little dry, then add some more water to it. But you don't want the paint to be too drippy, okay? You want it to be pretty solid and fluid. Okay, so this is what you're looking at now. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to rinse our brush nice and clean, and we're going to move to the color white. Alright, so this step is really kind of fun. You're just going to dip it in the white. Not a lot of paint on your brush, just a little bit, you know, just enough. Think of it as a pen, and you want a fine result. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to start in the center where the half moon or the crescent moon is here. I'm actually going to come out just a little hair from that, and I'm just going to do little strokes in a kind of a curvy way going up. So your stroke is going to be, I'm just going to grab a different brush. I'll show you with black. So your line is straight like this, and your strokes are going to be like this in white. Okay? But don't do them all down the lines. It's going to be random. So as I show you, I will show you the finished one. Nice and close up. So it's going to be randomly. It's not going to be placed on each black line. And as you can see, the black lines eventually disappear, but you can kind of see them coming through the dandelions. And around the outside is a little bit more white, giving it more of a circular motion, and then you can kind of see it's transparent going through. So if you do too much, you lose that inner circle, and you lose the look of a dandelion. So that's what we want to try and do now on all 5 dandelions. So I'm going to go back to the brush that I was using, and I'm just going to start my circle, And I'm just going to go and randomly go around, and you can turn the tile as you're working, and every once in a while you're going to have to dip in and get some more paint. And I'm just going to go around in a circle, just randomly. Try not to go up and down those black lines. Those black lines are not the purpose of this step. They are just so we can see them coming through the white. I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing. Try to keep the circular of the dandelion head. We don't want it to look oval. Some of the lines can be more solid white, some can be less, more transparent. And it can be bigger than your black lines. You can go beyond. What we're going to try and do is not have all the same size dandelions. So see, now I've got that first dandelion started. I'm just going to reinforce the edge of the outer ring with a little bit more white, just so it's more prominent. Once you're happy with your circular head of the dandelion, you can just do a couple of random white lines, just a couple, not very many, in between your black lines, just so that it kind of breaks up. Just a few, not very many. So see, I've only put a couple in there. I'm not sure if you can see that. Just a couple. And I'm going to move on to the next dandelion and do the same thing. So I'm going to work this while you guys work yours. And I might fast forward through this. Okay, so there is the start of the dandelions. So don't forget to put a few little random white lines breaking up some of these. Not a lot, just a couple. You know, I'm just going to throw in a couple of little ones. That one's a little thick, so. Alright, so at this point now, I just want to add a few little, just basically dots on top of your little half moon. Just little white dots, very little random ones. Nothing special, no special way of doing this, just basically very light little tiny dots. Okay. And then I also want on my sample is I have a couple of loose dandelions that are floating around. So basically that's just a very simple little line. It's kind of a curve and then a little pitchfork at the top. So I don't know if you can see that. See that little pitchfork right there? So when you put a few of these in, make sure that they're going in the same direction of their curve, so it looks like they're being blown in the wind. So you can throw a few little anywhere you want, just a few little random ones in between the letters. We can always go on top of the letters, across the letters, but remember we're going to decorate the letters too, so we can always add more of these. I'm just going to put a few random ones on. I might come back and put a few more in the direction that they're blowing. So I put my hand on my L and it wasn't quite dry, so I'm just going to touch that up. It does have to dry before you touch it. Okay, so the dandelions aren't done. They can be done if this is what you want. Let me just find my brush again. My tiny little brush. And water. Okay, so I'm going to clean off the white, and I'm going to just put a little bit of yellow on your half moon. Just a little, it's like one little stroke, maybe two if you want a little bit more brightness. Just on the top. In the direction that they are. Right, and then there's a tiny bit of yellow going down the stem. Try to put it on the same side. Indicates where the light's coming from. So I'm just throwing a little yellow down the stems. Just a broken line. Very lightly. Like so. So, some yellow on the stems. Yellow on the caps, the little half moons. Okay? And then just a couple of random straight lines coming through the center. Very small amounts, just maybe just 3 on that one. And maybe I'll put a couple on this one. And just a few on this one. And just a little bit. And maybe 1 or 2 on this one. So that I could have something like that. Okay? Those are all my dandelions. Good. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of blue now to the dandelion, just a couple of lines. I'm just going to throw in some random lines just to tie the coloring in with the entire project. I'm just going to go back and add a little bit more white to some of these dandelions. I just think that they need to be more prominent around the edging. My original was a little bit more prominent. And this is where you can start adding a little bit more detail to your project. The next step is basically this is where you want. You can leave the welcome the way it is, or you can highlight it with something. So if you happen to have these great markers, then you can go ahead and use the markers. If you don't, then you have to be a little bit more detailed with a brush, and hopefully you have a steady hand. I find these markers are handy. Okay, so I'm just getting some more paint in my white by just tapping the front end. Like these actually, if you've ever used paint markers, they depress and get more paint, but sometimes if you do too many taps, you get a little bit too much. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with my original, and I'm just going to decide where I want to put some of these white lines. I just want to make sure it's not too thick, and I'm just going to draw in some white lines just to make the welcome stand out a little bit more. If you're ever good at graffiti art, this would be a really good project to add some graffiti letters to it rather than just, you know, freehanding some letters. Now, because I have an E up here and an E down here, you want kind of to do the same thing that you did to the first E. So it looks the same. So this one could have a little bit more white on it. Maybe a little bit more white on this. If the tile's too light, the white doesn't show up as well. That's why I added blue to the first one, because the tile was a little too light, I should say. And you kind of want it to stand out, right? So this is where I'm going to take some of the blue. I'm just going to add a little blue to it wherever I feel I want to add blue. Yeah, I think I'm going to put a little blue here. Now, maybe some on the bottom of this one. So I find my C doesn't seem to stand out as well as the rest of the letters. So I'm just going to add a little bit more white to it. I might have to actually take the white paint. Okay, no, it's brightening up now. That's where you make some adjustments, what you want to do, right? Might make the C a little bit bigger and black. And I'm going to decide to put in a few more random dandelion seeds coming off and down, and oh, a little bit too much water on that one. Yeah, I have too much water on that. You know when you have too much water. There we go, that's better. Yeah, that's perfect. All right. And of course, when you're done your project, what do? You should initial it. So, easiest way I find is the marker. Oh, that's not my black. Here we go. So, I'll just put my initials, all done. And I've got a completed piece. I'm going to spray it with some urethane spray. I will try and list what kind I use on the materials list. But this is a fun project, great little gift for Christmas or anybody's birthday. It's unique and it's handmade. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll try and do another video. Thanks, bye.